Welcome back. I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec. Today we are going to discuss going on holidays when you're in a senior role, and this is particularly important because Fulyana is going on holidays tomorrow, and I have to convince her that she's in a senior role, and I need to know what to do while she's away.
Well, actually, this is a bit different in the sense that we're talking about concentrating on how to manage yourself in that situation while you're on holidays. It goes without saying, before you go on holidays, you do all the obvious things. You organise handover to different people, delegations, anything that you can do before you go, which is the normal way of managing and leading a team. But this is what to do when you are not there. I think the most important thing is to start looking at your own behaviour and disrupt your behaviour. So when you're at work, you have a routine, you get up in the morning, you do this. You could be on holidays at home, you could be on holidays away, in country, out of country, with your family, on your own, whatever that is. Most important is that you disrupt your routine so you're not falling in the same trap. Wherever possible, avoid your mobile phone or use your mobile phone for purely holiday and family and friends reasons rather than work. It goes without saying again that in a very senior role, if there is super emergency, then yes, they know a number to contact you on. But it has to be super emergency, not because you felt it's important. The other thing is, I often hear people saying, particularly when I'm doing mentoring or accountability partner, yeah, but I get my best ideas when I'm away and I like to jot them down, I'm not thinking about work, etc., etc. Well, that's fantastic, and if that's the case, and if you're really not trying to come up with ideas and you get ideas, then the best thing is to do it the old-fashioned way. Write notes, take a notebook, write notes in, and then you can reflect on those and flesh them out and all of that when you're back. I actually used it and it does work. The reason it is better is because you're not tempted by logging in, you're not tempted by going on the internet and following up your idea and seeing whether it's got legs or not. So in that sense, by writing it down, you captured it, which is important, but you're parking it so that you can think about it more, digest it, research it, etc. when you come back. So you continue to enjoy your holidays. Some leaders particularly like to let people know, I'm here if you want, or I heard that you did a good job, and they start just doing this cheering squad thing by saying, oh well done so-and-so, and that went really well, etc. I think that's kind of insulting in my book. It's because even though you mean well, what you're really saying to your people, see, I'm still connected and I'm still know what's happening.
I know what's happening.
Yeah, and not only that, but you also, all this culture that you're trying to build about work-life balance, people should be left to have a holiday. What you're saying is, when you go on holidays, I can do without you, we'll manage, but when I'm on holidays, you can't. You still need me to at least be the cheering squad or whatever message. Inadvertently, you're giving the wrong message.
It really undermines the hierarchy of the team that you've left behind. And I think that for me, there are a few things that have to happen before you go on holidays. Firstly, you have to understand that you are going on holidays. You have to prepare your mind for the fact that you are going on holidays. And if you haven't been on holidays for a long time, if this is the sort of first break that you've had in 2, 3, 5, 10 years, in some cases, we know people who've worked it that way, then you can't go for 2 weeks because you won't turn off in 2 weeks. So you really need to have, as Fulyana has said about disrupting your routine, you really need to understand what that means for you, and that you will be uncomfortable because this is not something that you have chosen to do before this time. So it might be that it's forced upon you. It might be that it is something that you feel now is the right time, or that it's now or never. But you've really got to get your head around the fact that you are going to leave work behind for a period of time. And I would suggest that 3-week minimum, if you haven't been doing it for a while, because it's going to take you 5 days to recover. And when you know it's time to start thinking about going back to work, there's going to be 3 or 4 days where you're already focused on work and the holiday is over. So headspace is very important for me before you go away. And then when the day comes where you are away, it's switch off. And it's not necessarily switch off your thinking, but it's switch off your managing role. Take a step back, take a deep breath, look around you, actually be in the moment. And we hear that phrase a lot, and it's a bit trite sometimes, but I think that an example is that this morning I was walking here from the train station, and for those of you who don't know, we record in the State Library in the city, in Sydney, and I come in by train from the country and I walk up through Hyde Park. It is a magnificent spring morning this morning. During this week, yesterday in fact, I had some quite distressing news about a friend of mine, and I was reflecting on that as I walked through the park this morning. And I came to crossing the road at Macquarie Street outside of the Mint and Hyde Park Barracks, and there's a magnificent spring display of flowers there. And I knew as I walked past, I was sort of 3/4 of the way past, and I thought, she would love this. I'm just going to take some photos of it and send them to her, which I did as I walked along. And I thought, I'm in the moment. I know I've got work things that I'm going to be doing today, and I've got a whole range of things that are in my head that we're going to talk about today. But I took that time to step away from the pressures of the immediate issues that were at hand and thought about someone else. It's about being kind, it's about being mindful, it's about taking opportunities when they present themselves, whether it's in the workplace or whether it's for your own health and well-being.
When you're away, I think one thing we forget, we sort of worrying about, not worrying, but we're thinking about who we're going with, whether it's, as I said, family, friends, etc., and making sure everything is going to be all right at work. But we forget to be children sometimes. We forget to say, hey, I'm going on holidays, and no routine, no rules, in that sense. And what I'm going to do when we eat, when we get up, when we go for a swim, when we go for a walk, whatever we do, we're going to have fun. And I think that is so important to remember, that it's your job to make sure you personally are going to have fun.
There's another thing that many of us struggle with, and it's about how can you be happy? And only you can make you happy. So choose to be happy on your holidays, happy to be away from work for a period of time, happy to know that you're going back to work after the holiday's over.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would caution you about is living on Facebook while you're on holidays.
Yes.
Because you think that that's your connection, or you unconsciously see that that is your connection to the workplace or your work colleagues or the others that you're not seeing on a regular basis. And then when you perhaps put your images up of where you are or what you're doing, and all of the comments are about the individual people saying that they've been there or they've done that or they went this or they did that, and they're not acknowledging what you're doing, they're talking about themselves, and you think, well, why aren't they appreciating what I'm doing? No, it's not about you. Facebook is about whoever is writing what they're doing at the time, and the interaction is not about making you feel better. It's not about acknowledging that you're on holidays, and it's not about how important you are or how much they're missing you if they don't comment, if they don't like what you're doing. It doesn't matter. So don't rely on Facebook for feedback while you're on holidays.
While we're on the Facebook thing, I'll share this with you. One of my the people I'm working with thought he will only did everything right while I was on holidays, use Facebook because that was his, at the holiday thing being nothing to do with work. But he did put a comment that said, oh, this is so wonderful, I'm having such a good time, and I really haven't thought about work, and I don't even feel like coming back. and his intention was to say, disconnecting is good, I recommend it, I encourage it, but I don't think it might have been received by all that way. So again, leave Facebook for the family, I think, and friends, and keep work out of it.
We have cautioned you about that before, because the other issue is that if you, perhaps in this period of time, it's a time for you to reflect on on work and what you're doing, and you might decide that it's time for a change, time for a bit of a mix-up of what you're doing. It might open up to you other opportunities for a lifestyle that you hadn't considered or didn't think you were ready for. So advertising that, for want of a better word, on Facebook opens up the opportunity for not just your colleagues but potential employers or others to see what you're thinking and how you're reacting and what you're saying. And it is increasingly a way for organisations to filter who they talk to and what they talk to them about. So as always, we would remind you to remember that your personal profile and your digital profile are important and you need to be vigilant about looking after them. The other area that we could probably talk about on this topic is about coming back to work after you've had the break. So you come back from a holiday and you've had such a wonderful time, you've really done all of the right things and you've switched off and you're recharged, re-energised, rejuvenated, you get back to work, and the first day that you're back at work, they just dump the files on your desk and say, well, it's good to have you back, get all this sorted out for us because we couldn't do it without you, and you're thrown back into often the position head-wise that you were in before you went on holidays, or even further back than that. And our natural reaction, predominantly, is to feel like we haven't had a holiday at all. Now, how many of you have heard someone say that, or you've said it yourselves and you said, oh, it just feels like I was never away. Feels like I never had a holiday. My mother used to always say, as soon as you get back from your holiday, you plan the next one. Mm-hmm. Because it gives you a target. You know, we've talked about targets all through all of our podcasts to you. They don't have to just be in the workplace. They can be in your life as well, and they should be in your life as well. So my recommendation is that when you come back from holidays, you plan the next one. Whether you plan what you're doing or where you're going, but you plan the time. You at least start to say, this is when I will have my next break. And you start to create a different pattern for you and for your life and for your well-being. And that's going to come across in everything that you do.
Even if it feels flattering when they dump all these things on you, initially you might feel like, oh, they couldn't do without me, see, they need me as the leader or whatever it is. Don't, because at the end of the day, as a good leader, it's your job to make them become the future leaders. So in that sense, don't do it. Just say, all right, you want to bounce something off me? Keep them the owner of that task, the job, the strategy, whatever it is. Make sure they continue to own it and don't take it off them, but be there as a sounding board and a guidance. And in that sense, you'll be able to gauge where they're at in your absence. You'll be able to build on all their strength and help them grow where they need to grow.
Yes. I think we've probably covered going on holidays. I hope to hear that you have all had a holiday after you've listened to this podcast. And we do wish Fulyana well with grated teeth on her latest adventure overseas. But she'll be back to talk to us, as will I. So for now, I'm Kim Bailey. She's Fulyana Osborne, and this is Inside Exec.